This episode of System Design Basics will talk about how do CDNs work, how do websites like Netflix etc. work, and how are they able to deliver a good quality content which you see at a very high speed. You can easily stream videos nowadays on Netflix, YouTube, whatever at a very high speed. So how do these work? What is the role of CDN in these cases? So let's try to relate from the basics first. So in the basics we talked about that there is a request, there is a response. So in this case your request is actually requesting for a video or a movie, or even in Instagram the images which are stored, you can say you are fetching that too. These images and movies are not delivered directly through the server. We need something like a CDN. So why do we need a CDN? Let's talk about that. CDNs are used not only by websites like Netflix, these are also used by websites like Instagram, which are delivering normal reels and photos. It is also used by Hotstar. It is also used by Facebook delivering reels. Any type of content, even the GIFs which you see on various websites, they are also sometimes not delivered through the server directly, but they are just delivered with the help of CDNs. Now, why are CDNs needed? Why can't we just deliver the content directly from the server itself to the client who is requesting it? So the basic reason for that is that you need the content which is high in size. So video is broken down into multiple chunks, and you want this complete video file. And this video file is not something in KBs, it is mostly in MBs. And this can, if you are downloading this from the server, what's the issue in this? So the major issue in this is that the distance between the client and the server can be very large. So for example, you are sitting in India and you say you want a movie, and the server that you are requesting the movie from, that is located in United States. So now what is the big issue in this? So if you have seen my complete series till now, you know that to establish any request you need to establish a TCP connection. So in that TCP connection, basically there is a round trip involved. First you make a call to create a connection, then you receive an acknowledgement, then this connection is created, and finally then the connection is created. So every time you are requesting this chunk of data, you are making a call to a very far location, so the latency is very high. So that means if the latency is very high, and also the data that you are fetching, that is of very high size, so you cannot fetch the complete request in one time. You mostly will be making multiple calls. So think of the latency. Suppose that video is broken down into, like, suppose 10,000 chunks, and to see the video properly you have to fetch, like, to see 10 seconds you have to fetch 100 chunks together. So you are making 100 calls, and so even this call, if this latency is very high, the video will start buffering, it will start creating issues. And that's why we do not want to bring the data from the backend server, and that's where the need of a CDN comes into the play. So first is that the distance can be very large from the client which is requesting, and also the backend server must be reading the data from one source. This can be any of the file system or any of the cloud technologies storing the files. So the server is reading the data from the file system and then delivering it to you. So everyone is making the call to that server, just one place, one source, and if suppose that source goes down, it can create many issues. So a better approach would be to cache these files into some server so that they can be delivered at a faster speed. So as we talked about, latency is one of the major issue. Now you must argue that why does this distance matter? Why does distance between the client and server matter? Is the request coming through road, or like what the hell? So basically it is simply that the internet works through a connection of optical fibers which are laid across the world through the underwater sea. That's how you are connected to the internet, as you see. So actually the request which you are sending is traveling through these wires and then reaching the other country. So actually it takes a lot of time to establish this connection. Now a better approach would be that instead of storing the files into one source, we'll store the files into cached CDN edge servers. What do we mean by edge servers? Edge servers are simply that for each person watching the video, or wherever the app is live, the person can watch the video, and the video will be streamed to that person through a CDN server located at that place. So there is proximity to the place where the person is actually present and making a call. Now the next question which comes to our mind is, when does a person connect to a CDN? So whenever you open a website netflix.com, the call is definitely going to the Netflix backend server. It is not going to any CDNs. So when does the CDNs come into the picture? So they come into the picture when you actually request a movie. As you are a client, you make a call to the backend server that I want this movie. The backend server replies with the URL, and you use this URL to contact the CDN which is located close to you. This can be like one of the approaches in which the server is telling you to which CDN location you actually have to make a call. So Netflix uses this approach. In Netflix, like I told about, you make a call to the the backend servers. It then directs you to a CDN server to go to a particular CDN servers. Now Netflix uses a bunch of open connect appliances which function as the CDNs. They have created their own devices instead of using the existing CDNs. These open connect appliances are actually present in every ISP. So for example, if you're using Airtel or if you're using Jio, in that ISPs from where the internet you are connected to the internet, there are OCA devices installed. So whenever you are trying to watch any movie, your call is then directed to the closest OCA devices which is present to you, and then you are able to watch the video. Now in this, one thing to notice here is that there is no logic which is stored in the OCA. OCA just gets the traffic, it just serves the movies which are stored in it. It doesn't know whether the movie will be present in it or not. It does not do anything else. It just gives the traffic. So these type of CDNs are called directed CDNs or push based CDN, in which the responsibility is of the backend server to determine which CDN location to actually make a call to and will store the actual movie. Now what about apps like Instagram? Would you make a call to the backend server and it will return a URL for every post that you scroll? Well, no, it does not happen like that. So whenever you are scrolling your feed, first of all your feed is loaded. So in your feed there are some posts. In those posts, yes, there is a URL, and that URL actually points to the CDN from which the image would be served to you. Image or reel, whatever you are searching, will be served to you. So you get a URL, you make a call to the CDN, and that's how you get the content that's there. So let's see how Instagram will work. So you will make a call to the DB to get the URL and the related metadata about any post. You will use this URL to make a call to the CDN, and it is the responsibility in this also of the file store to push the required images and required movies, reels, whatever it is there, to the CDN. The CDN does not have to take care about whether it is present in that or not. It expects that if a call is coming to it, it just has to serve that request with the data which is stored there. Now there are two types of CDNs like we talked about. These were the push type of CDNs, in which the server has the responsibility of making sure that the data is present in the CDN. But there are pull based CDNs also, in which the call goes directly to the CDN and then CDN checks if it has that file or not. If it has that file, then great. If it does not have that file, it will make a call to the backend server, fetch that file, and then return it to you for your request. So these are called the pull based CDNs. Now you may use push based CDNs or pull based CDNs according to your use case or business use case, whatever you're trying to solve. Now as we talked about, this was all about CDNs, but this is not how everything about how streaming occurs. I've also talked about how streaming occurs, like from CDN to you, how is the video coming and what happens behind it. So I've talked about it in this video. Do watch it, and I hope you like this one. See you in the next one.